My 1978 Trail 90 has reached the pinnacle of perfection, or at least the pinnacle of preservation that I deem necessary. It appears to be running well. The bike has new badging to show its Honda pedigree. I've run it a little around town. I've completed a maiden voyage of goodwill to receive some motorcycling karma. And I've been asked by friends, are you actually going to ride that thing? Yes, I am. How often and where is yet to be determined. Their question should be, is Little 90 ready for the kinds of adventures Sid and I have planned? I have a 100-kilometer route that I use to test gear. It has a little bit of every type of road, from highway to gravel, hills to twisties, and trail to single track. Come with me and let's put the tiny Trail 90 through its paces, see how it handles the trip. So far, I've ridden it on short, easy trips, and frankly, I'm concerned that the engine might not stand up to what I've planned. Miles of pavement at open throttle for several hours. This is more than just getting the engine warm. After all, this motor has averaged less than 60 miles per year over its 43-year life, and I'm about to pound out over 65 miles in a couple hours. The Tiny 90 showed its limitations on the very first road I traveled, a state highway. The bike was not at home on a fast road, posting a speed limit of 55 miles per hour. The 7-horsepower engine's top speed comes in right at 43 or 44 miles per hour. Sure, on downhills you'd go faster, but on the flats, low to mid-40s is what you can expect. Luckily, this road has a nice shoulder for me to use, allowing the faster traffic to pass. For the most part, the drivers were courteous enough and on occasion gave a double take at my little vintage Honda. Still, she's not overly buzzy on the pegs or handlebars even wound out. It's quite an adjustment for me and works against my years of experience on a bigger bike. Tiny 90 will only go so fast, even at wide open throttle. Plan accordingly. This bike was built for a time 40 decades ago, a bit of a slower age than the bustle of modern times. As highway gave way to country roads, the trail was more in its element. 35 miles per hour is a great cruising speed for this bike. I was able to sit back and enjoy some fall foliage in the morning sun of late October. The light bike was easily maneuverable in the curves. It was here I learned of the second limitation to the engine: hills. Steep hills are the mortal enemy of Tiny 90. You can gear down only so much, then you run out of gears and out of oomph. Don't get me wrong, 90 would do hills, but at her own pace. Also, I'll note the third gear wide open does get a bit buzzy on the pegs and hand grips. Once again, traveling on the 90, it's about taking in the landscape, not speeding through the environment. Hitting some gravel roads and the CT90 transformed. This is what it was meant to do. The engine was perfect for propelling me down the road at a 30 mile per hour pace. Because the motorcycle was so light, only 180 pounds or so, it felt more like riding a mountain bike, minus the sweat and burning thighs. The road got smaller and more rugged. I was surprised to find a few things out of place on this one-lane gravel and rock road. The slower pace encouraged me to slow down and take in the novelty. So I got here on this back road, taking this teeny tiny little path, and apparently, I'm guessing, or at least I'm hoping, it's a haunted house sleigh ride. So if you look behind me, there's all kinds of creepy stuff. And there's these little booths set up along the way. Kind of fun. But not exactly what you want to see as the roads get smaller and smaller down into a dirt road. Back on the bike, Tiny 90 was a joy to ride on these off-road portions. I was even able to find a few short trails to truly get more off-road. The bike will walk through anything. It definitely lives up to its reputation as a trail and farm bike, easy to handle over any terrain. While the suspension is definitely not plush, it doesn't need to be for the speeds it reaches. It's not overly harsh, keeping the bike light yet easily rideable, even for long distances. Sitting on the tank with the low-slung engine makes the light Trail 90 feel even lighter while riding. The high handlebars make for a great upright riding position despite the bike being on the small side. At 5'11", the handlebars were of good height, but my legs did feel a bit cramped for the long ride. The seat was very comfortable for the 108-kilometer ride. I guess 43 years of riding provided a good break-in period. The braking is, well, just bad. It is front and rear drum brakes, which I never expected to be stellar. However, they engage slowly and not particularly evenly. Luckily, it's a light bike and you don't need much in the braking department. Adequate would be the description. Overall, the vintage bike performed wonderfully. While the engine was wide open throttle for much of the 100 kilometers, not a protest was issued. The old gal ran like a champ despite being 43 years old. No oil usage. I've been through 2 tanks of 89 octane gas since owning the bike, averaging 84 miles per gallon. As noted, much of the time wide open on the throttle. This puts my range at 116 miles in the standard tank, with an additional 50 miles available in the auxiliary tank. Tiny 90 is a perfect bike for campgrounds, grocery getting, town errands, commuting, and exploring backcountry roads. That's her niche. An adventure bike? Maybe. She's certainly reliable enough, easy to work on, and parts are available everywhere. She's capable enough to carry some camping gear and tour some back roads. Just be aware, with a CT90 it's definitely the journey. As she's not fast or adrenaline-inducing, you might find more beauty and nostalgia rather than finding a heart-pounding adventure. You'll find a nice afternoon with an old friend.